Anastasia, after you first touched on the subject of signs many years ago, I found many examples of the presence of different signs and symbols in ancient cultures. For example, cultures of the Balkan-Danube region, which are a number of archaeological cultures of the Neolithic and the Chalcolithic ages in 5th to 3rd millennium BC, which occupied a large area of ancient Europe, and the Balkans, a mountain range in the southeast of Europe. A rather rich ornament consisting of the main symbols can be seen on the artifacts. It includes circles, spirals, triangles, crosses, pyramids, rhomboses, and other signs. Figure 43. Symbols of the cultures of ancient Europe, 5th to 3rd millennium BC. Symbols of different ancient cultures are represented here: the culture Vincatordash, Turdash, modern territories of southern Europe, Hungary, southwestern Romania, northern Serbia, and Bulgaria, linear pottery, Central Europe, from Germany's Ruhr region to the borders of the Czech Republic and Slovakia, the Danube culture, Bilani, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, the Balkan culture Domini, Aegean coast near the city of Volos, not far from Larissa, Greece, the Baltic Narva culture, in modern Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, northern Belarus, and Pskov Oblast of Russia, the Lenyal culture, western Hungary, eastern Austria, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and other cultures of this period of the given region. Furthermore, I would like to mention the archaeological culture Sisklo, 5th millennium BC, near the Volos city located close to the major city of Larissa, the Greek coast, for which ornament of geometrical shape is typical. During the excavations, figurines and tableware, which were painted with this ornament and often coated with red paint, were unearthed there. Incidentally, pintadera were also found there. The Spanish word pintadera, from pintar meaning to paint, depicts something. These are a kind of clay contour stamps, usually with an ornamental pattern. They were quite common in many cultures of the Neolithic period. It is believed that one of their functions was to apply some sort of tattoos in the form of signs and symbols with paint onto the human body before a sacred ritual or a ceremony. And, of course, the Shigir culture, 5th to 4th millennium BC, the Middle Urals and Trans-Urals, modern Russia, may be especially noted. Its artifacts include a sculpture made of larch, which is the oldest wooden sculpture found in the world to date. It was named after the place where it was discovered, the Big Shigir idol. The torso of the statue is covered with carved geometric ornament from all sides. The sculpture itself dates back to the Mesolithic period, 9,500 years ago. Rigdon, by the way, on this idol, so called by archaeologists, there is also information about the 7 dimensions in the form of 7 of his guises, schematic images of human faces. And the 7th dimension is represented as the upper 3-dimensional, double-sided, leading face, while 6 dimensions are represented in the form of 6 contour faces. The latter ones were cut on the broad planes of the idol's body, 3 were cut on the front, symbolizing the 3-dimensional world, and another 3 guises, on the reverse side, symbolizing dimensions which are inaccessible to an ordinary person, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. Anastasia, the most interesting thing is that scientists are still arguing about what this could mean, and also about the meaning of the symbols and signs on it. Interestingly, in the first description of this idol by the museum worker who received this object, then, it was mentioned that the idol had his legs crossed. And this points to the lotus position and cognition of the world in the process of meditation. But, obviously, this part of the artifact was very inconvenient for someone, since it, at the very least, made people think about the connection with the East, so it is precisely this part that disappeared without a trace in the museum storeroom even before the revolution. That is what losing the key to the original knowledge means. The artifact was found, but nobody knows what to do with it and how to read the ancient signs and symbols. As a matter of fact, on the territory of modern Russia, they discovered many symbols of the ancient archaeological cultures that are highly interesting for the researcher. For example, the Upper Volga culture, it was located in the area of the Volga River, Upper Volga, in the Volga-Oka interfluve, on the present territory of the Moscow region, Russia, in the layers of which dishes with carved ornament and symbols were found as well as clay medallions with carved signs, an ancient medallion, in essence, the same tamga. And how informatively valuable are the artifacts, for example, of the Chibarkul culture, the southern part of the Ural Mountains, now Chelyabinsk region, Russia. As a matter of fact, the Urals region is very rich in symbols and signs. For instance, the Urals petroglyphs, rock carvings, of the Mesolithic, Neolithic, and Bronze Ages are priceless. Interestingly, they were mainly painted on the rocks which faced the water. And water, as we know, symbolized the other spiritual world in the interpretation of the ancient people. If birds were depicted, then in most cases they were water birds. And traditionally, like with all ancient peoples of the world, spiritual knowledge was recorded in the form of geometric shapes, circles, polygons, waves, zigzags, diagonal and straight crosses, and rays, as well as anthropomorphic creatures and hoofed animals that designate mainly the four essences. But most importantly, with human figurines in form of the bug, with spread out arms and bent legs, on whose heads there were symbols of spiritual liberation or perfection, either the Alatare sign or the symbol of Alat, or several emanating rays were depicted. I am not even mentioning the most ancient cultures of Siberia with their symbols and signs. By the way, I gleaned many interesting facts also from the research of the Eastern cultures dating back to the 7th to 6th millennium BC, and not only in the Urals but also in Asia, in Near East and Central Asia. For example, the Hostler culture of hunters and gatherers which existed almost 9,000 years ago. It is characterized by rich paintings on house walls and tableware with graphic symbols dominated mainly by the solar, sun, circular, and rhombic symbols. Figure 44. Symbols of the Hostler culture, 7th to 5th millennium BC, Western Asia. Or, for example, the culture of Kitulhoyuk, which you have mentioned in the conversation, that, just like Hostler, existed in the 7th millennium BC on the territory of modern Turkey. Its symbols were indeed dominated by many cross-shaped and rhombic images, and there was an obvious reverence for the divine feminine principle. All this points to the fact that ancient people possessed primordial knowledge about the soul, the four essences, and the related spiritual practices. Figure 45. Symbols of the culture Kitulhoyuk, 7th millennium BC, West Asia. Interestingly, judging by the burials, the ancient people of this culture did not even have signs of social stratification or any hint at inequality between men and women in the matters of leadership in the spiritual, social, or domestic areas of their community. In the sanctuaries discovered by scientists, there were many female figurines of Mother Goddess, and in addition to the paintings, there were relief images of Mother Goddess, ox heads, and lionesses. By the way, the best-known sculpture found in this layer is a female deity sitting on a cubic throne, the side arms of which are made in the form of two lionesses. The same can be observed also in ancient Egypt, same lions as symbols of the lateral essences and the ox head as a peculiar ancient interpretation of the symbolism of this knowledge. Rigden, yes, for the ancient peoples that revered the ox as a sacred animal, such an associative interpretation of this knowledge was typical indeed. More precisely, the bull, the cow, and the snake, as well as other representatives of the tangible animal world, whom I have already mentioned, were made holy by people only because at one time the invisible structure of the human being and the world was explained to the previous generations using them as an example. The same applies to the plant world. The animals themselves, reptiles, or plants have nothing to do with this. This is akin to taking an apple and comparing it with the shape of the soul in the transitional state. One can say that the soul is approximately the same, round in shape, that its shells have yellow and red colors. Just like an apple ripens in the sun as a fruit, so does the soul, figuratively speaking, ripen when a person develops spiritually. So then, if the spiritual component of this knowledge is lost, then for the next generations, the apple will become a sacred fruit which will be worshipped since it was written down in the sacred texts of their ancestors. That is how the animal mind materializes everything spiritual in the human system in order to establish its power. In earlier times, the basic spiritual practices were explained almost at the elementary level, essentially just like nowadays. In other words, they took common associative examples of the three-dimensional world, understandable to a person in everyday life. It was only necessary so that he could grasp the initial stages of spiritual work. With his further spiritual development, the need for this disappeared because the person got a personal experience of being on the invisible side of reality, the spiritual world. And that reality is impossible to explain in human words. That is why spiritual people understand each other without words. And those who still do not know about the other side are fighting a losing battle, trying to grasp with logic that which can only be understood with feelings. It is for the latter that such coarse associations of the material world were given. So, getting back to the sacred symbols of the image of the bull. In the associative interpretation of ancient people, the bull's eyes represented a conditional symbol. Of the lateral essences, an elongated nose with a mouth, speaking, or rather, mooing about the past, meant the back essence, and the top part of the head with arched horns stood for the front essence in the form of a crescent with horns pointing upwards, the sign of Alad, and as a symbol of the possibility of leaving for the other world. On the bull's body, they usually placed the sign of the circle, in which 6 lines were inscribed like a star with 6 rays. The latter is a symbol of 6 material dimensions ruled by the animal mind. And if the 6 rays of the star looked like a diagonal cross intersected with a horizontal line, then the 2 horizontal rays, the minuses, pointed also to the control by a person of his lateral essences or, conversely, to their activity, depending on additional signs. Incidentally, special emphasis was made on the bull's body either on the abdomen as an associative image of the container of the animal world or on the back in the associative understanding of the carrier, base, of the material world. Appropriate signs were placed there. Later, when religion appeared as an institution of power and control, total destruction of the old beliefs began and some priests turned the symbol of the bull into a sacred image to be worshipped by the masses, concealing the true knowledge, while other priests, fighting for their own power, started interpreting the bull as a negative image along with that knowledge that it embodied. Anastasia, such a substitution of an associative image for a sacred one is also traced in modern beliefs nowadays. In such religions as Hinduism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, the cow is still revered as a sacred animal. In Hinduism, eating its meat is taboo, and earlier, in the first centuries of the Common Era, rulers of India regarded the killing of cows by any resident as a terrible crime, which was punishable by death. Not to mention the fact that all the products and waste of this animal in these religions are still considered to be sacred and cleansing and panacea for all the spiritual and physical ailments. And what has remained of spiritual knowledge? Practically nothing, just general philosophy with the material inclination of worshipping an ordinary animal. As a result, entire generations of people, instead of actually working on themselves in a spiritual aspect, are appeasing a common ruminant cloven-hoofed animal. Rigdon, yes, the animal mind is strong in its substitutions. Anastasia, how quickly, after all, it implements its substitutions into the human consciousness and how long they remain in the human society. All these ancient cultures that existed on the territory of ancient Eurasia and their echoes testify that people possessed spiritual knowledge which was more important to them than everyday life. Apart from the above-mentioned cultures, there are many others that existed in the ancient times and had the same symbols and signs. For example, the Hassauna and Halaf cultures, 5th millennium BC, the present Iraq territory, northern Mesopotamia, Syria, and Turkey. These cultures existed before emergence of the Sumerian civilization, the Zagros culture, settlements of the encampments Ganj Deri and Ali Kosh, 7th to 6th millennium BC in the Zagros Mountains, modern-day Iran, the Murgar culture at the foothills of the Sulaymaniyya Mountains, 4th to 5th millennium BC, modern Pakistan territory, the Ana culture, 5th millennium BC, near the modern city of Ashgabat, Turkmenistan. And that's far from the whole list, which actually covers large territories of people's settlement in those days, from Europe to Siberia and from Africa to Asia. And everywhere you can find similar graphic symbols, one and the same geometrical signs which were richly painted on house walls and tableware. Rigdon, I shall say even more, pay attention to the fact that an abundance of such signs is found exactly in the areas located close in proximity to those places that were important since ancient times, in a spiritual sense. I mean those places where, at some point in time, spiritual people who had appropriate knowledge activated certain working signs, the power of influence of which was preserved for millennia. Anastasia, are you saying that these places are not anomalous zones of energy emission, that is, they are not of natural origin but of an artificial one, that they once were created thanks to the activation of certain working signs? Rigdon, yes. It is sufficient to follow the events, at least within the available historical data, especially in the spiritual aspect, which occurred in the places you listed, where at some point in time signs were activated. Anastasia, actually, yes. If, for example, we take the Tripoli civilization. Modern city Kiev, for instance, is still being called an open chakran, a place of power. And if you consider that there was a lotus temple there in the ancient times, and next to it there were settlements of the Tripoli civilization with an abundance of sacred signs and symbols known not only in ancient Europe but also on other continents. Rigdon, smiling well, but why are you saying that the lotus temple was? Anastasia, well, yes. In fact, if we continue comparing places of power, some interesting moments in the history of the civilization's spiritual life become visible. For example, if we consider the east coast of Greece near Larissa city. Close to it, there is also the mountainous peninsula Halkidiki, Holy Mount Athos. Indeed, today it is the world's largest concentration of the Orthodox monkhood, the spiritual dwelling which is revered by many people as the abode of the Holy Mother of God. There, for over 1,000 years, prayers have been uttered unceasingly, and everywhere there are ancient symbols and images of the Mother of God and Archangel Gabriel. It will just suffice to mention the Vatapedi Monastery, erected in honor of the Annunciation to the Blessed Virgin Mary, or St. Panteleimon Monastery, Rusik, Ras Ikon, on Mount Athos. After all, back in the day, Agapit of Petchersk was directly involved in the spiritual activity of these ancient monasteries. Indeed, these are significant events in time which have remote consequences in the distant future. Rigdon, and it all began with the activation of signs. Anastasia, yes, Greece and signs are inseparable concepts. The Balkan Peninsula territory in the past, somewhere from the 3rd to the 2nd millennium BC, is an area of the Aegean expansion, or as it is also called, the Crito-Mycenaean culture. This is one of the mysterious cultures. Judging by the art monuments, the feminine principle was honored in it also, and the writing system was rich with signs and symbols. As far as I know, the Cypriot Minoan writing, from which the Cypriot writing system subsequently ensued, has not yet been deciphered. And the signs of the Cypriot writing are very similar to the signs of Tripoli and other ancient cultures. In other words, the signs have remained but their original meaning has been lost. Figure 46. Signs of the Cypriot writing, 11th century BC, ancient writing system of the inhabitants of Cyprus Island located in the eastern part of Mediterranean Sea. Rigdon, everything once had one root, there was one language and same signs. But now the language is forgotten, although the signs have remained, only people lost the spiritual component of the knowledge about these signs. But the memory of the power of the signs' influence has remained in a human being at the genetic level. If you look at the preferences of every personality, what symbols it intuitively pays attention to the most, and which comfortable for it ornament it surrounds itself with even in everyday life, then we can see those same basic signs and symbols. It is enough to take a look at what patterns surround a person on everyday objects, what decorations are in the interior and exterior of the house and even on personal things. At that, not only at home but also at work, signs and symbols of businesses or companies, logos of different everyday items, internet sites, and so on. For people, this is so commonplace that they do not even question from where the root of their desire grows, of such subconscious preference of certain signs and symbols, why they surround themselves with them, and how this influences their lives. Anastasia, yes, that's a fact. I had never really thought about it until I came across the knowledge given by you. I remember that after I first heard this information and turned my attention to my home environment, the realization of what surrounded me all along was a revelation for me. There were patterns and basic ornaments around, emphasizing what I subconsciously strived for in my life. Furthermore, some of them were working signs. So every day, seeing all of this before me, I unknowingly activated them with my attention, and thus, my life was influenced entirely according to my choice based on my personality's secret subconscious preferences. Rigdon, a close observation of oneself leads to interesting discoveries. A person finds in himself that, which before at times he would easily notice only in others. Anastasia, yes, this was a true revelation for me back then which allowed me to adjust my life in this respect as well. And now you have intrigued me by the very idea of tracking the places of signs activation starting at times of high antiquity. If analyzed, then it all falls into place just like parts of a jigsaw puzzle. For example, Russia, the southern part of the Ural Mountains. The southern Urals are rich not only in signs and symbols but also in mysterious, anomalous places. Also there, near Chibarkul, archaeologists found that very country of towns with the one culture which we have already mentioned in our conversation. These are ancient cities which existed in the 4th to 3rd millennium BC on the territory of the present Chelyabinsk and Orenburg regions, Bashkortostan, Russia, and northern Kazakhstan. That is, there actually was an entire civilization during the period of ancient Egypt. These towns were originally well designed and had a complex architectural blueprint. Furthermore, in addition to rectangular forms, many of them had a distinct circle shape, while others were egg-shaped, semi-oval, apparently, drawing a parallel with the cosmic egg which was known in the mythology of many ancient peoples. Generally, it should be noted that the ancient cultures of Siberia, which cover large areas of western Siberia, the southern Urals, and the western part of Central Asia, are very rich in symbols and signs. But, on the other hand, this is not surprising, after all, the entrance to Shambhala is nearby. Rigdon, absolutely. The signs and symbols of those places are the richest and the most interesting for the researcher. But still, in order to have at least a general idea about them and see where the roots are growing out of, it is better to cover a larger area for comparing signs and symbols, from the western Siberia of Russia to the mountains of India, from the Iranian Zagros Mountains to the Mongolian plateau. Anastasia, it will suffice to mention just Altai and its unique archaeological findings and the presence of anomalous areas. The Zagros mountain range, modern Iran, is also quite mysterious, given the presence of many kilometers of limestone caves which have retained not only their nature but also human secrets, symbols, and signs for millennia. And if we consider the spiritual history of generations of the people who lived in those places, then we get rather interesting comparisons. To the west side of the Zagros Mountains, there are the valleys of Mesopotamia, which is the location of the Sumerian city-states in the 4th to 3rd millennium BC. Again, the Sumerian culture is associated with the same main signs and symbols that other ancient peoples had. And some of their sacred legends, for example, about the flood and the Paradise Island, were later on borrowed by the Jewish priests as they were drafting the texts which would subsequently be included in the Bible, but, of course, without referencing the Sumerian civilization as the source. Figure 47. Signs of the Sumerian civilization, 3rd millennium BC, Southwest Asia. Well, and of course, one must not forget to mention Prophet Zarathustra, who preached the teaching about Ahura Mazda on these territories of ancient Persia, in the 1st millennium BC, which are located precisely in the Zagros Mountains. After all, the Holy Book Avesta and Zoroastrianism religion were created based on this teaching, and they had a significant impact on many people of subsequent generations, not only of those places. Figure 48. Image of the symbol of Ahura Mazda on ancient bas-reliefs. As far as I know, this ideological concept of Zoroastrianism was once very popular in the East and had an impact on the formation of such mass religions as Manichaeism, Mitraism, Judaism, and also the Christian sect of Cathars, who quickly spread their influence in Western Europe in the 11th to 13th centuries AD, and whose religious beliefs were considered as dangerous heresy by the Roman Catholic Church. Well, this chain of discoveries becomes more interesting every time. Next, the archaeological culture Mehrgarh at the foothills of the Sulaimaniya Mountains, modern Pakistan. Rigdan, the most ancient cultures of Hindustan in the Indus Valley. Yes, those were very interesting times in terms of activating signs. Anastasia, I remember you once told us about one of the global points of the junction, location of the world's largest plexus of mountains in Asia, the formation of the systems of the highest mountains of the planet, Pamir, Hindu Kush, and the Karakoram. And in the context of this story, you touched upon the subject of a highly developed culture that existed not far from those places 5,000 years ago, that is, in the 3rd millennium BC. You had me so intrigued with this information that I made a more in-depth study of this issue. As of today, archaeologists conditionally call this culture the Indus Valley, or, using another name, the Harappan civilization, which is named after an archaeological site in Harappa in the western part of South Asia, Pakistan, West Punjab. Figure 49. Map of location of the Harappan civilization, 3rd millennium BC, South Asia. The map shows conditional boundaries of the ancient civilization and some of its main centers, Harappa, Mehrgarh, Mohenjo-daro, named after an excavation site, the Indus River, and the former riverbed of the holy river Sarasvati, marked with a dotted line, which embodies a feminine deity in mythology. Sarasvati is a legendary ancient river, the area around which was considered sacred. According to the legend, between the rivers Sarasvati and Drishadvati, there was a sacred country of Vedism and Brahmanism, created by gods, Brahmavarta, translated from Sanskrit as the country of Brahma. It was considered to be the holy land on which Bharata people once lived, and the sacred texts of the Vedas were compiled. Actually, I was rather impressed by this quite developed civilization. It existed for thousands of years on a fairly large area, bigger than other ancient states of that time, had a centralized urban structure, and also a stable culture, which remained unchanged for millennia despite the fact that people of different races and nationalities lived there. Just like what we had in the Soviet Union. But unlike the Union, residents of the Harappan civilization seemed to possess spiritual knowledge, and this information was available to many people. The Harappan, Indus Valley, civilization, as you then brought it to our attention, existed during the times of Sumer and ancient Egypt, before the arrival of the Aryans in those lands and before the creation of the sacred Vedas. But it is just amazing what kind of knowledge people of this civilization had. Your information was like an eye-opener for me to many historical and archaeological messages, and it was quite surprising why archaeologists do not notice such obvious facts. During the excavations, just like in the Tripoli civilization of ancient Europe and Çatalhöyük of West Asia, many female figurines made of terracotta were found there, which points to the veneration of the mother goddess and the feminine principle, that is, of the creating forces of Alat. In the places of existence of the Harappan civilization, archaeologists discovered several large altars with wells and clearings for ablutions. In essence, this proves that knowledge about special magical transformation with the help of water, when a person with spiritual faith performs an ablution during religious rituals, was known a long time ago. Figure 50. Signs of the Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, Indus Valley, South Asia. But the most amazing thing is, of course, the Harappan script which has not yet been decrypted. Scientists find some similar signs in the Sumerian script and voice an opinion regarding proximity to the Hittite hieroglyphic writing. Furthermore, they have discovered that almost 50 characters of the Harappan culture are similar to the signs of Easter Island. Have a look at the location of the South Pacific, in fact, of Easter Island itself, and India and Pakistan, which is the location of the ancient Harappan culture. They are separated by a distance of 13,000 kilometers and thousands of years' time. This points to the fact that these signs and symbols were known in different parts of the world at different times. Rigdon, that is so. I have already said that these signs and symbols, which contained basic knowledge about the world and the human being, were present on virtually all of the continents, despite the fact that local peoples gave their own coloring to their interpretation at different times. Anastasia, the importance of some signs, in my opinion, proves another fact of a kind of a hunt for them. Take, for instance, the story of Easter Island's ancient writing system. In that area, the knowledge about signs and symbols as well as their use in written language, disappeared quite recently, in the middle of the 19th century, when the island was invaded by the Western civilization with people who had sailed on the Dutch and the Spanish ships. The world learned about the unusual writing system of the island from a Catholic missionary who visited the place. The locals of Easter Island kept records with special signs on wooden boards which were present in almost every home. But at the same time, after revealing the signs of Easter Island to the Europeans, this missionary and his followers did everything to destroy this writing system and burn it as pagan heresy. And what has remained of this culture which existed just recently? Several hundred huge head sculptures as high as multi-storied buildings, weighing from 20 tons and scattered around the whole of Easter Island, and also a couple dozen boards with literary texts which miraculously remained intact, as well as a staff and a breast ornament with writing. At that, the latter are scattered throughout different museums of the world. The impression is that the world's priests, having learned about these signs and symbols, did everything to destroy them, even despite the fact that these were already meager remnants of the once former knowledge. Rigdon, well, the archons are not sleeping, they act. Of all the people, they understand what signs are and, all the more so, what an activated sign at work is. Anastasia, the saddest thing is that this is not an isolated case as far as the total destruction of the knowledge is concerned. At the beginning of the 20th century, one European anthropologist traveled to South Africa. While in the belt of the Drakensberg Mountains, the very same mountains where the Bushmen left their rock inscriptions, he came upon a village of the Basotho people. He was surprised at the fact that all the walls of the conically shaped mud houses with thatched roofs were painted with a different colored ornament which the homeowners diligently looked after. It turns out that this was the writing system of that nation, in which each sign and symbolic detail of the ornament meant something. The ethnographer published his discovery in one of the specialized journals to draw the attention of linguists. But in response, there was, as they say, silence. And when many years later some specialist accidentally discovered this message and a group of scientists headed to that area to explore this unusual writing system, it turned out that someone had already done some serious work to eradicate this ornamented language out of the consciousness of the Basotho people. Rigdon, smiling ironically, well, why someone? Immediately after the publication of that ethnographer, other specialists arrived in the region of the Drakensberg Mountains in short order. After all, during that time the Basotho nation was under the British protectorate. The British authorities, who were manipulated by the Freemasons, had not interfered much in the affairs of this nation before this case. Their forced guardianship over the African nation was related more to diamond mines, kimberlite pipes containing diamonds that had been discovered not far away from those places. But as soon as the information related to the sign and the ornamented script of this people appeared, the Freemasons reacted to it much faster than to the presence of diamonds in the same places of South Africa in its time. So these specialists, who arrived as Catholic missionaries, promptly created a new writing system, Sesotho, based on Latin for these peoples, opened schools, and began teaching the script and English language, forcibly weaning new generation away from the language and the writing of their ancestors. They filled people's heads so much that by the time the linguistic scholars came there, it turned out that even 70-year-old people no longer remembered the writing of their fathers because they had only been taught English and Sesotho. As a result, the local people now blindly copy the pattern of their ancestors without realizing its true meaning, modifying and simplifying it, painting on the house often for additional income based on attracting foreign tourists with such a unique culture of the local people. And they do not even understand the basis of the spiritual knowledge they were deprived of and why today they and their rulers are still being so easily controlled by foreigners, by engineering unemployment, hunger, riots, and political upheavals in the country. Anastasia, well, who could have thought this? It is clear why the Archon's mouthpieces tell peoples that signs are a primitive language and that there is nothing of value in them, that it is mere folklore. The more people will interpret them in their everyday meaning, the better it is for the Archons, so that no one could get to the essence. And the Archons themselves spare no expense on such projects in order to destroy spiritual knowledge and withdraw creating signs and symbols from the people's memory. Rigdon, well, all is clear with the Archons. But the sad thing is that people themselves, the very majority, allow Archons to do things like that. Anastasia, a few more words about the Easter Island. The local population has preserved legends that the ceremonial platforms, Ahu, on which some of the stone statues are situated, serve as the link between the visible and the invisible, the beyond, worlds, and that the very stone statues, Moa, contain the supernatural power of their ancestors. The latter, according to the beliefs, is supposedly capable of controlling natural phenomena and, therefore, to bring about a favorable result, thriving of the nation. Rigdon, there is nothing supernatural there. It is just that at one time, those people lived there who knew how and for what purpose certain signs needed to be activated. Had their descendants not lost the knowledge which they were given, then the people living now on the island would understand themselves and the basic connection with other worlds better. Usually for the chronicle, as a way of passing on knowledge and legends to the descendants, knowledgeable people applied signs onto stone statues while they often adorned themselves with the corresponding tattoos which had a special symbolic meaning. For uninformed people, they were drawings which meant absolutely nothing but which instilled respect and fear of those who, in their opinion, probably knew something special. Later on, of course, commonplace imitation took place. Anastasia, yes, but there are no signs on the stone heads and platforms located on the Easter Island. Rigdon, and who said that these heads do not have a continuation? Let them dig deeper in those places, and maybe then they will find what is hidden from their eyes. But that is not the point. Even if people discover something interesting through signs and symbols, what will they do with this? When material thinking dominates and there is a lack of knowledge, they will at best create a stir in the media in order to attract more tourists to the island and to earn money. That is it. The knowledge is valuable for the spiritual seeker only when it can be used to perfect oneself and provide spiritual help to other people. Anastasia, that is indisputable. Your words could not have come at a better time to confirm the data from archaeological excavations of the Harappan civilization, which I brought with me to this meeting. We did find what we had been looking for: signs and symbols and unique artifacts, but their interpretation by modern humans leaves much to be desired. I made drawings of the photos of the archaeological findings, including some artifacts from Mohenjo-daro, conditional name of the ruins of once the largest city of the Harappan civilization found in the Indus Valley in present-day Pakistan. For example, here is the steatite seal which you had told us about. A man is sitting in the lotus position on a dais. When I first saw this picture, I was of course struck by the fact that 5,000 years ago people were doing the same spiritual practices as we are doing now. However, the museum description of this seal, as well as of other findings, once again made me smile with sadness. Since, in essence, this description reflects the worldview of the people who put it together. But probably, had I not known about the existence of this spiritual practice, in these scholars' shoes, I myself would then, obviously, have reasoned in the same way. Archaeologists describe this image in the following way: a naked male deity with 3 faces is sitting on a throne in yoga position, there are bracelets on his arms, on his head, there is a sophisticated headdress, the top of which looks like a branch of a fig tree. Various conjectures are voiced, including those that since the man depicted on the seal has such vegetation over his head, then probably this symbolizes the power of this 3-faced deity over nature. Figure 51. Seal image of a person doing a spiritual practice on a sign. The Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, the Indus Valley, South Asia. Rigdon, I think if the person who made the seal heard such an interpretation by learned men from distant future, he would be as surprised as they were upon discovering it. How low in spiritual development the civilization has dropped in the far future for its best of the best, progressive-minded people, learned scholars, to reason like this. How could that which aids spiritual liberation of the human being, which is the main purpose of his life, be forgotten? So, for the ancient master, such an interpretation by modern humans would be no less astonishing. And as far as the seal is concerned, these signs are like an open book for the person who is knowledgeable in the ancient secret writing of signs and symbols that indicate certain basic meditative techniques and spiritual practices which lead to spiritual liberation. It is clearly shown here that the person is sitting in the lotus position. This is not a nude male deity. This is an indication of the beginning of a meditation, activation of the lower chakran. A burst of energy and its movement through the energy meridians. The throne on hooves simply indicates that the person is spiritually higher than his animal nature, the hooves symbolize the latter. Besides, in some cases, such a conditional graphical designation, a small hill on which the meditator is sitting, may indicate the group leader, when this spiritual practice is done together. The 4 faces, 3 visible masks and an invisible one, point at the level of this spiritual practice, in which the integrity of the 4 essences is already used to perceive the invisible world. Incidentally, in ancient times, they depicted 3-facedness, almost always implying 4 faces, the 4th invisible side, as evidenced, for example, by mythology and images of gods in the ancient Indian civilization. The sign over his head is far from a branch of a fig tree. This shows an outpouring of energy from the 1,000-petal lotus chakran as well as activation of the indicated working sign during this meditation. Anastasia, yes, even the sign itself here speaks of the spiritual level of this person, for whom it is within power to activate it. Rigdon, certainly, this is not a simple sign. The upper inscription is a reference for a knowing person to this spiritual practice and its purpose. Anastasia, in fact, all the signs that identify this spiritual practice are present here, a diagonal cross as the symbol of the 4 essences, with certain accents, the fish sign meaning submersion into an altered state of consciousness, the wave sign indicating a movement of energies, the sign of the powers of Alat is stylized for the record. In essence, the same ones as in the ancient rock inscriptions. Here, even if people eventually dress these signs in their material understanding, the image itself will retain the basic spiritual information for the informed people of new generations. Rigdon, quite right. Anastasia, you know, when I was searching for information about the Harappan civilization, I also unexpectedly discovered many other interesting facts. For example, take the steatite seal which you have already mentioned. By the way, I think the readers will also be interested to know, like I was in my time, why seals were often made of steatite in ancient times. After all, this material was used as early as the Paleolithic era, as evidenced by the archaeologists' discoveries of female ritual figurines of Paleolithic Venuses made of this rock. Rignan, this material was indeed widespread among the peoples in different times. It is precisely steatite that was used for magical figurines in ancient India and ancient Egypt. It was described in legends as a rock endowed with sacred properties. It was used in the Urals, Asia, and Americas. In the ancient times, it was also called firestone because it conquered flames and forced even the fiery firmament to follow its inner form. Sacred philosophy was seen in it. Well, and, of course, this stone is not empty. Steatite has truly unique properties. Besides being easy to process, it contains talc, magnesite, and chlorite. It has high durability, high heat capacity and thermal conductivity, and resistance to chemical and acoustic effects. It does not resonate and does not conduct sound. In general, as they would say today, the soapstone, as it is now called by geologists, has good insulating properties and serves as a source of positive energy. In the heated state, it emits heat waves which coincide in frequency with the frequency of thermal radiation of a human himself and amount to 8 to 9 microns. It also has a number of properties which have a positive impact on the human health. This was known even in ancient times, so it was often used both in everyday life and in magic. Besides, thanks to such unique properties of this rock, steatite seals were impossible to burn. They were strong enough and lasted for thousands of years, which is why it was used for the transfer of such knowledge. Anastasia, and here's a copy of an image of the steatite imprint discovered in Mohenjo-Daro. You once told us about it? The knowledge about the fiery lotus group meditation technique is indeed reflected here. Judging by the print, the leading person in the meditation is a woman who has a connection with the spiritual world. The Alatare sign is positioned atop her head. Figure 52. Seal print image of a group meditation, the Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, Indus Valley, South Asia. Although the seal is described in scientific books as a sacrificial ritual procession of 7 figures, where a deity is positioned standing on the sacred fig tree, it is clear that when the foundations of spiritual knowledge, as well as the sacred symbols and signs, are lost in the human society, it is difficult to understand anything of the above mentioned from the perspective of the material worldview. For most people, even now this picture will not go beyond their current perception of the world. Rignan, everyone carries his own baggage of personal experience through life. According to its contents, a person judges the world, but actually, his judgment is about himself. The material worldview grounds people, enslaving the soul even more, making the load even heavier, and forcing the person, like a convict, to drag these burdensome chains in his consciousness. The spiritual outlook lends wings to the soul. It perfects and helps to form personal baggage solely out of the values of the spiritual world, which do not get lost after the physical death of the body. Anastasia, I am convinced yet again how important it is for man to have personal spiritual experience and knowledge, and treat his spiritual development with full responsibility. After all, life passes very quickly. In the Harappan civilization, people knew about this for certain, judging by the remains of their culture. Here is a picture of the seal print that you once mentioned as a symbolic outline of the meditation on the 4 essences. Again, it shows a 3-faced person sitting in lotus position. Above the head of the meditator in the area of the 1,000-petal lotus chakran, there is a symbolic depiction of the lotus flower. The ancient Egyptians drew the flower the same way, and a schematic designation of the signs of Alat, Alatare. Figure 53. Seal with an image of the meditation on the 4 essences. The Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC. Indus Valley, South Asia. And next to it, there is an inscription in the form of symbols and signs. And on the sides of the central image are the 4 beasts. Besides, those are an elephant, a tiger, a buffalo, and 1 horned rhinoceros. The elephant is shown as walking away to the side. This is a symbol of the back essence, of human slow and strong past. The attacking tiger symbolizes the aggressive right essence. The howling buffalo is a symbol of the left essence if we consider the symbolism of ancient India and Southeast Asia, where buffalo symbolizes the supernatural power and the masculine principle. And the one-horned rhinoceros, according to the mythology of the ancient peoples of Indus, is a symbol of strength, insight, happiness, and a fearless creature of which even the tiger is afraid. That is, it is endowed with characteristics of the front essence. And it is no coincidence that the symbolism of one horn is depicted here. By the way, I was surprised to discover that seals of the Harappan civilization had a common theme of a sacred mythical creature with one horn. Scientists named it a unicorn, depicted next to the sacred, spiritual, symbols. For me, it was a very intriguing discovery, given all that you had told us earlier about this creature. Rigdan, the unicorn since ancient times has been one of the symbols of the front essence which helps a spiritually pure person to connect with his soul and escape the circle of rebirths. It personified aspiration in only one direction, the spiritual one, and that is why it was endowed with qualities that are typical for a person in the course of his spiritual development: purity, honor, wisdom, strength, courage, and accomplishment of good deeds. It was also associated with powers of Alad, divine purity of the feminine principle, myths about the Virgin and the unicorn. Figure 54. Symbol in the form of unicorns on a seal of the Proto-Indian civilization. The Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, Indus Valley, South Asia. The two unicorns on the seal, the neck and the horns are shown, indicating a helical, spiral, structure, with a circle in the middle, form a conventional symbolic sign of Alad with a circle, the Alatare symbol. Above it, there is a rhombic structure and 7 large leaves, indicating spiritual transformation of the human being and his exit into the 7th dimension, as well as 2 small leaves on the sides of the rhombus. In the lower right corner of the seal is a rhombic sign with a sphere inside of it. The rhombus sign is a sign of transformation, also points at a person who has attained spiritual liberation and escape into the 7th dimension during his life. The 4 circles in the corners of the rhombus indicate his 4 essences are fully controlled by him. The inner circle is depicted as a symbol of a 6-dimensional world. This symbol indicates cognition of all 6 worlds by the person through inner cognition. If we trace the history of symbols, we will see that the Sumerians, for instance, placed the unicorn's image as a symbol associated with a circle, the soul, which is interpreted by researchers as a lunar symbol as well as an attribute of goddesses in the meaning of spiritual purity. The Assyrians depicted the unicorn on bas-reliefs next to the tree of life, and the Egyptians put the best moral qualities into its image. The Persians, according to their sacred knowledge, considered the unicorn to be the perfection, a representative of the pure world among animals, originally the 4 animals, and its horn as the only force that is capable of defeating Ahriman. Let us take the old Slavic legends and epic tales recorded in the ancient Russian collection of spiritual songs called the Pigeon Book, the book that got banned by religious priests in the 13th century, in which the unicorn is referred to as Indric beast, Indra. It has the following lines. Our Indric beast is the king of all beasts, and he goes, the beast, in the dungeons. He crosses all the mountains of white stone, and he clears all the creeks and streams. When this beast leaps in joy, then all the universe stirs up. All the other beasts bow to this one beast. And he never ever hurts anyone. Anastasia, yes, I have come across these epic poems which describe the ancient people's worldview, including matters of cosmology, sociology, and spiritual knowledge. But I became interested in them after I'd started to understand their spiritual essence and learned how to separate the wheat from the chaff. For example, Indra is said to be living on the holy mountain. He eats and drinks from the blue sea, walks horn-like through the dungeons in the sun in the skies. Considering that the holy mountain is the symbol of escape into another dimension, the water means the spiritual world, and the spiral-like horn, with which Indra walks through the dungeon, stands for astral travels by means of tunneling, where the tunnel is often twisted into a spiral, then the book turns out to be quite fascinating. Rigden, had you seen the original version of these epic songs, which the ancestors of the Slavic people once possessed, you would be surprised at the simplicity of the truth and the spiritual knowledge that was contained in such symbols. But, unfortunately, little of these tales has been left in the version that reached modern people. And it is not only because of the distortions that accumulated over the centuries of transfer of the knowledge. Unfortunately, these epic stories were altered considerably when Christianity began to be propagated, and the pagan, originally Slavic beliefs began to be destroyed. In some cases, information was replaced while in others it was altered. Some birch bark manuscripts with old Slavonic records were burned completely altogether. This is when significant substitutions occurred with emphasis on the ideology of the Christian religion. For example, previously, one of the epithets of Indra was Far, which in Old Russian means a thoroughbred horse, jumper. Ministers of the Christian religion took advantage of this, and the unicorn in their legend began to live not on the holy mountain from the Russian epics but on the holy Mount Tabor in Palestine, which in the Christian tradition is considered to be the place of Christ's transformation. But what I would like to say about the epithet Far itself. The ancient Slavs used the word in the meaning of a stallion in relation to Indra, the unicorn, and this is also a human interpretation of the knowledge already. According to the original legend, which once was known not just on the territories inhabited by the ancestors of the Slavic people but also in ancient India and ancient Iran, the Zagros Mountains, the front essence, which was symbolically represented by the unicorn, was linked with the Farno, or, speaking in modern terms, the Grail. The Farno, Farn in the East, was defined as the shining principle, the divine fire that multiplies power, control, and might. It was mentioned that Farno helps the human soul to cross the bridge which leads to eternal life. And now put all this together with the knowledge that you already have. Anastasia, for me, this information, just like every meeting with you, is yet another discovery. Now it is clear. First of all, why they put two wooden horse heads with a large solar symbol, circle, on the ancient Russian huts and shrines. By the way, this tradition was widespread not only in Russia but also among the ancient peoples of the Baltic and Europe. It turns out that besides the fact that it was a stilist alitare sign, it was also one of the ways to interpret the ancient sacred legend about the unicorn and the Farno. Secondly, if the legend has a common Indo-European root, then its echoes, and, consequently, the remains of the knowledge, must be sought not only in the ancient Rus epic but also among the literary monuments of ancient Iran and ancient India. Take ancient India, for example. The most popular Vedic character there was precisely god Indra. Translated from ancient Indian, the root of the word Indra means an indication of spiritual power. Interestingly, it is mentioned that the ability to have many forms is inherent to this god and that it can turn into a horsehair. Indra himself appears in myths as the god of heaven who is connected with rain, water, who releases rivers and streams and pierces channels, just like the Slavic unicorn Indrike. He is the son of power, one who drinks soma, friendly, and always ready to come to aid. And most importantly, it is Indra, according to the legend, who fights alone and conquers dragon Vridra, the demon of chaos, and his victory is equated to the victory of the dynamic principle, the powers of Alad, over stagnant chaos, the animal mind, and it leads to structuring of the Vedic world of wide spaces. This battle is the central plot of the legend. If we consider that the ancient Indian Vridra, literally translates as block or a barrier and that Indra represents spiritual power, then, in essence, it all means overcoming the animal nature, the spiritual victory of human over himself, his liberation. Rigden, besides, Indra is believed to be the guardian of one of the four cardinal directions. There is also a reference related to the knowledge about the structure of the world. In particular that Indra rules over Svarga, heaven. According to beliefs of the Hindus, it is a paradise located on the top of Mount Meru. And now recall that in the Slavic and Russian mythology, there was also god Svarog, the god of heaven, heavenly fire, the father of Dazhbog and Sverazik. In the All-Russian Chronicle of the beginning of the 12th century, the tale of bygone years, which was included in the Hypatian Codex, the following mentions of it have been preserved. For this cause, he was called god Svarog, and his son under the name of the sun ruled over 7 kingdoms. He was named Dazhbog. The king of the sun, Svarog's son, he is Dazhbog, approximate translation from the Church Slavonic language, translator's note. Anastasia, that's right, it all has one and same root. After all, even if allegorically, but it speaks of 7 dimensions and of man's spiritual work on himself. Svarog, for example, being the embodiment of heaven, according to the epics, in the darkness of thunder clouds kindled the flame of the heavenly fire, lightning, and then, breaking rain clouds with thunderbolts, he kindled the lamp of the sun extinguished by the demons of darkness. If we take into account the fact that Svarog acts as the front essence here, the rain clouds are thoughts from the animal nature, and the lamp is the soul extinguished by the darkness of subpersonalities, then the old Russian mythology looks quite interesting. Rigden, I should think so. Incidentally, the Pigeon Book, which explains the origin of the world, also mentions the Eladir stone. According to the legend, it is believed to have signs inscribed upon it that speak of the laws of Svarog, the god of heaven. According to the old Russian legends, it is from under the Eladir stone that the sources of living water begin and carry sustenance and healing, creation. It is beneath the stone that the power that has no end is hidden, and it is on the Eladir stone that fair maiden Dawn sits, who always wakes the world up from the night sleep. Now put all this together with knowledge about the Alatare sign, of the power of the divine creating feminine principle Alat and of its important role both in the processes of the development of the universe and in the spiritual awakening of the personality and its fusion with the soul. Incidentally, in their spiritual tales from the old times, Aladir is what the Slavic ancestors called the power of Alat emanating from God as well as the person who accumulated this power and increased it in himself with spiritual labor. Anastasia, yes, many things become obvious when you possess spiritual knowledge. You begin to understand not only yourself but also the single spiritual grain of different cultures. I feel sorry for the researchers who see only the material side of the issue even in the already mentioned image of the Harappan civilization seal, which is so rich in symbols and knowledge. By the way, the image of this person sitting in the lotus position, with the 4 animals on his sides denoting the 4 essences of the human being and a sign over his head, is presented in the scientific literature as an image of a 3-faced god with flowers on top of his head and animals at his sides. And, according to their own descriptions, researchers came to the conclusion that this is a patron god of cattle and animals. That's what it means to see the world from the material point of view, from the perspective of the will of the animal mind. Rigden, well, it takes only a wish to switch the dominant of the observer and see the root of the issue. Knowledge recorded in symbols and signs has always existed, but it is only a spiritual seeker who can behold the truth behind the veil of secrecy. Anastasia, this copy has another interesting image. On the sides of the meditator are depicted the wild animals that are typical for those places, that is, they are clear examples to those peoples which glaringly represent the 4 essences. And under the throne with typical hooves, you can see domesticated animals, goats. In ancient India, the goat was a symbol of fertility, vitality, a guarantee of sustenance, meat, wool, and milk. The sacred Vedas mention that some Vedic gods ride on this animal, for example, Agni, the god of fire, sacrificial bonfire, and home hearth. But all that was already much later than the existence of the Harappan civilization culture. Given the spiritual symbolism depicted on the seal as well as the location of the goats under the throne with hooves on which the person sits, all this symbolizes that the meditator is above the domestic earthly attachments and that his spiritual concern exceeds his worries about the material world. Rigden, quite right. All these animals are merely associations, clear to the thinking of people of that time, which characterize peculiarities of spiritual knowledge, meditations, and the view of the world that is different from the three-dimensional world. It is nothing more than that. But people are prone to imitate. In the absence of primordial knowledge, experience, and practice of spiritual practices, or simply from misunderstanding them, they begin to perceive associations from the spiritual teachings as material reality. Moreover, from their material mind, people make these associative images sacred and begin to worship them in the material world, thinking that this way they will achieve enlightenment and attain the grace of heaven. That is why history knows of incidents when knowledge was distorted and interpreted from the perspective of the human mind, when spiritual teaching pointed out that in order to be a part of the divine, it is necessary to kill the beast in yourself. Ignorant people took these words literally. As a result, bloody sacrifices of animals and people came about in the history of mankind, simply because of wrong or deliberately distorted interpretations of the remainder of bygone knowledge by those who controlled the religious policies or influenced the formation of beliefs of this or that people. Today, religions together with their sacrifices look somewhat primitive to eyes of the people of the technological civilization. Since subsistence and survival of the human society as a whole do not depend on their political plurality and the worship shown to various gods. Now, the material god of the majority of the living people is money, the way it used to be the goat in the family. But some time will pass, and the material priorities will change again, although they will not stop being material because of that. Look at what kind of associations must be used today to renew the lost spiritual truth, comparisons to generally comprehensible scientific information, bringing up associations to the operation of a computer, equipment, and so on. If the majority of people do not change now in the spiritual aspect, it is quite possible that in the future, if a future comes for this human society, all this knowledge will also be seen literally by people, with a perversion of the spiritual meaning. Anastasia, I can imagine what kind of slogans technological priests may use: sacrifice nanomolecules of the latest selective modification to gods, and you will atone for your sins for the whole month. Believe in the mind of the world's supercomputer, and you shall be saved. Rigdon, all this would be funny if it were not so sad. You may laugh at it, but people should give serious thought to this. The spiritual world is impossible to describe accurately. That world is completely different from the material world. But the spiritual world can really be felt by doing spiritual practices, overcoming your egocentrism, and opening a way to the world eternal inside of you. Anastasia, this is really so. The essence of the things you have said can be better appreciated only after you begin to discipline yourself, to work spiritually and practice daily. To conquer your animal nature and spiritually liberate yourself has been the actual goal of all spiritual teachings since the Paleolithic times. Another thing is how people recorded this knowledge in contrast to the modern understanding of information transmittal. Again, in the Harappan civilization, for instance, another interesting print on terracotta was found. One side of the plate depicts a person seated in the lotus position, the observer, having the corresponding meditative symbol over his head. And next to him, there is a person killing a buffalo, defeating his animal nature. Over the buffalo, there is a lizard with 6 spikes on its tail. Of course, scientific books suggest that this is hunting, sacrifice, and so on. Figure 55. Image symbolizing victory over the animal nature. The Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC. Indus Valley, South Asia. Rigdon, by the way, the lizard is also an ancient traditional symbolic designation of certain spiritual knowledge. It was considered to be a mystical creature just like the snake, but, again, only because the life of this amphibian in the past was associatively compared to different spiritual processes. For example, its image was associated with the ancient past and the ancient structures of the brain as well as with the connection with water, the other world, the fact of presence or immersion, of the observer and his entering into an altered state of consciousness through it, and penetration, tunneling. Symbol of the back essence. The image of the lizard was also portrayed as a sign of wisdom, a warning of danger, and a symbol of changes. Regarding this picture, it is not spikes that are shown on the lizard's tail, but merely a symbolic designation of mountains. It is in today's society that we are able to speak about dimensions, the multidimensionality of the world, and altered states of consciousness. In the distant past, however, this associative knowledge was expressed somewhat differently. For people who spent their whole lives surrounded by mountains, the difficult path of self-perfection and renunciation of their animal nature, worldly desires as well as self-centeredness, was compared to ascending the mountain, overcoming yourself, and passing dimensions in spiritual practices to surmounting the first mountain, and after it a second one, and so on. For many peoples, the mountain is a symbol of spiritual elevation, connection with the supreme worlds, an associative image of connection with different worlds, for example, the earth and the sky, the earth and the underworld, and, respectively, the abode of beings of another world. Getting to the other world was only possible by overcoming yourself. But truth be told, because of such associations, when soulless empty material imitation began, the mountain began to be depicted as a place of sacrifice because it is supposedly located closer to gods. Anastasia, the pattern on the other side of this terracotta form is also interesting. It shows a smiling woman who has seized two tigers, the lateral essences, by the throat and is standing above an elephant, symbol of slow, departing, strong past, the back essence. Her hair is like a symbolic image of 12 little rays. And over her head, there is a sign of the diagonal cross in a circle with crossed out lateral essences, that is, a symbol of complete control over them. Researchers are at a loss as to interpreting the image because it is the only Indus script that depicts, in their opinion, a spoked wheel above the head of a female deity. Rigdon, had there been more such wheels in the spiritual history of mankind, and not in theory but in practice, this humankind would then be priceless. Anastasia, well, considering historical artifacts, the lateral essences were so tightly held by the throat and kept under control not only by the best representatives of the Proto-Indian civilization who once lived in Asia. Similar symbols are also present in the sacred symbolism of ancient Egyptians, Africa, Indians of ancient Peru, South America, Scythians, and Slavs, Europe. And, incidentally, later you can see a clear transformation of this ancient associative symbol of the lateral essences into a corresponding separate symbol in the form of a staff. 3 4 5 6 11 12 10 9 13 14 Figure 56. Symbolic notation of the spiritual control by man of his lateral essences among different peoples. An image on the terracotta form, the ancient symbol above the head of a smiling woman who holds two tigers by the throat, the Harappan civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, Indus Valley, South Asia. An image of the Scythian goddess Agrimpasa who was a part of the Scythian pantheon of 7 gods, the 7th to 3rd centuries BC, the northern Black Sea region. The ancient Egyptian sign Ankh holding 2 mythical animals with hooves, relief in the Egyptian temple of Sobek and Haroeris, year 80 BC, the city of Kom-Ombo, Egypt. An old gold pendant of the peoples of South America in the form of a cube-shaped figure standing on a 2-headed snake. The sign of a victorious deity, the thunder god of the ancient Slavs, Perun. Before Christianity, he was considered to be the supreme god in the pantheon of Kievan Rus of the 9th century AD. According to the legend, after Perun's victory over a mythical enemy, waters are liberated. In the archaic transformations of the myth, a godly woman, Mokosh, who had been kidnapped by his opponent, is liberated, and heavenly moisture, rain, spills out. A white stone carving on the south facade of the Cathedral of St. Demetrius, a monument of the Russian architecture. The cathedral was built in the years 1194 to 1197, Vladimir Susdal Museum Reserve, Vladimir, Russia. A rock painting, about 4th to 3rd millennium BC, the White Sea Coast, Republic of Karelia, Northwest Russia. A robe fragment of the Indian culture Paracas, 5th to 3rd century BC, ancient Peru, South America. An image of a Scythian goddess on a bridal ornament, a golden equestrian headband, 4th century BC, Mound Large Symbolka, Zaporozhye region, Ukraine, the Hermitage Museum St. Petersburg, Russia. A slotted metal plate with an image of the goddess, 7th 8th centuries, an archaeological finding in Lake Chud, Perm region, Russia, Cherdinsky Regional Museum named after Pushkin. An ancient Egyptian sacred scepter was in the form of a staff with a curved tip and a forked bottom, a head and hooves of an animal, an attribute of the ancient Egyptian gods meaning control, power, over the animal nature. In the mythology of Northern American Indians, a symbolic image of a dragon-like serpent with feathers, myths mention that it symbolized storms. This dragon could only be defeated by the great hero who had moral purity and superior spiritual strength. A demiurge in the Inca religion, Viracocha, the supreme deity of water and earth, he holds two serpents in his hand, one with 7 sections of the body indicating 7 dimensions, and the other one with 3 sections of the body and cloven hooves indicating the 3-dimensional world and the animal nature, 11th to 14th centuries AD, South America. The stele Horus on the crocodiles, 3rd century BC, ancient Egypt. Horus is depicted naked as a symbol of purity and not being burdened by material desires on his journey through this world. Importance of control of one's essences is indicated here as well as domination of the non-material values in the human life. Rigdon, yes, who could have imagined back then the scale this transformation coming from the human mind would take? The symbol that once personified spiritual control of the human being over his lateral essences, and consequently, the possibility of spiritual development and liberation from the material world, came to be used as a symbol of power over people after loss of the spiritual component because of foolish human imitation. Priests of different religions, magicians, monarchs, kings, tsars, and emperors made a material symbol of their all-embracing power and rule over nations out of the staff and the scepter. By the way, the Greek word scepter, sceptron, and the Latin sceptrum mean a staff, support. No one remembers anymore why, in fact, this ordinary stick, for possession of which people would sometimes kill each other while striving for power, was endowed with such symbolism as an attribute of gods of heaven, an intermediary between God and men, kings and their servants, and a guarantor of peace and justice? Why was it considered to be a symbol of additional abilities for its bearer and of supreme power in the meaning of as you wish? Why did it serve for different peoples as an attribute of death and resurrection, victory, purification, and rebirth, a symbol of heavenly patronage, an attribute of a bodhisattva, and an indicator of the path? Why did those ancestors who had this symbol depicted beside them have spiritual authority among people in the old days? Anastasia, that's true. After all, people in ancient Egypt seem to have still known about the spiritual meaning of symbols. The Egyptian triple scepter, for example, consisted of a whip which symbolized power over matter, the left essence, a rod with a hook meaning control of the senses, the right essence, and rings, the dominion over one's own thoughts. Of course, this understanding was lost also in Egypt over time, but still, information about the symbols which recorded the old knowledge has partially reached the present day. Even today, the artifacts of ancient Egypt astound by their informativeness in terms of spiritual knowledge. Take, for example, the serpent biting its own tail, with 72 rings, body chains. Incidentally, I also brought with me drawings with images of adornment of the Harappan civilization which were discovered by archaeologists. On the territory of the excavation site, they found many terracotta bracelets and rings made in the form of a snake biting its tail, so to speak, the Ouroboros of the Harappan civilization, which testifies to the antiquity of this symbol. Furthermore, another interesting thing was found, either a ritual belt or a necklace. But what is interesting is its description. It consists of 42 long beads of the carnelian gemstone, 72 bronze spherical beads, 6 bronze beads, 2 bronze crescent-shaped end beads and 2 hollow cylindrical ends also of bronze, and 42 long beads of carnelian. Thinking back, the ancient Egyptians had exactly 42 moral commandments, of which the Jewish priests borrowed only 10 to create their religion. These are interesting comparisons. Obviously, this was common knowledge in the ancient world, it's just that, at different times, every nation attributed these commandments to their gods. Apparently, the fact that these 42 beads were made of carnelian is not a mere coincidence either. In the Neolithic age, this precious stone was widely used to make various products. It was well known in the states of Mesopotamia, ancient India, ancient Egypt, and among the peoples of ancient Europe, ancient Asia, and ancient America. It was also known in Rus, and it was mentioned in the anthologies of Sviatoslav. A variety of ritual ornaments, amulets, talismans, and ritual objects were made of it. I read that in ancient Egypt, the carnelian was linked to different characters personifying a living soul and protection in the afterworld, and it was associated with the forehead chakra and clairvoyance. People also knew of its healing properties. But the most interesting thing in the Harappan ritual adornment is that there are exactly 72 spherical beads, 6 bronze beads and 2 crescents. Given the knowledge of the 72 dimensions of the universe, the 6-dimensional structure of the material world, in which the human energy structure is located, and also of the main signs of Alat in the form of the crescent, it may be noted that there existed a rather interesting way of recording and transferring information even via such ritual adornments. When you possess spiritual knowledge, you really look at the world with a different, more global view and understand more than what is offered by the material system of values. After all, if you think about the question, why would a human being need such a complex structure with a multitude of adaptive mechanisms, interconnections, an amazing wave structure, and a unique brain capable of operating in different modes and altered states of consciousness? The answer is simple like any truth, because the person has a prospect of spiritual development. Otherwise, he would be no different from any other animal. Rigdon, the greatest value is not in the material acquisitions, but rather, spiritual knowledge, thanks to which both human and the society can perfect themselves, developing overall. The spiritual knowledge was present in human society from the beginning. It is just that before, like nowadays, conditions for the human choice remained. Some people delved more deeply into them because they strived to liberate their soul, while others did less since they could not cope with their animal nature and chose the temporary instead of the eternal. Naturally, this knowledge had to be renewed from time to time in the human society and adapted for different peoples, by taking into account associations that were understandable to them. That is why we have such a variety of legends, containing one and the same original information. But I repeat, the knowledge about the tools for human spiritual perfection was present from the beginning. This can be traced by the most ancient symbols and signs which have already been mentioned in the conversation. Anastasia, this is an undeniable fact. It is enough to just look at the main ancient signs which symbolize the spiritual world and man's complete spiritual liberation. Rigdon, in this regard, I would draw special attention of the modern mankind to the Alatare sign. Its original portrayal is an empty circle which is edged underneath by a crescent with horns pointing upwards. It is one of the 18 original most ancient working signs. The name of this sign, Alatare, speaks of the quality of its power. The fact is that at the dawn of mankind, thanks to the primordial knowledge, people knew about the one who created everything, denoting his manifestations by the sound Ra. The creating power of Ra, the divine feminine principle, the mother of all, was initially called Alat. Hence, the people initiated into the spiritual knowledge started calling this original sign Alatare a symbol of the creating power of the one who created everything. By the way, in the ancient times, this information about the sacred primordial sound was attributed to the sacred knowledge about the world order of the universe in the context of information about the human being as a complex object of this world, who is also unstable in his choice. But the modern people at best associate the sound Ra only with ancient Egyptian myths about God Ra. Nevertheless, the Alatare sign as a conductor of the creating power of God has been used by people since ancient times. It remains constantly active and interacts with the visible and the invisible world and influences the human energy structure, regardless of whether the person understands this or not. Still, the main effect of the sign rests on the human choice. If spiritual nature dominates in the person, this sign influences him as additional spiritual power. That is, the sign comes into a kind of resonance and strengthens the creating spiritual power of the person. And if the person is dominated by the animal nature, this sign remains neutral in relation to him. A negative person is usually fueled by entirely different signs which work to activate the material animal nature. The Alatare sign manifests its influence, the creating spiritual power, the most in a group of people who really work on themselves in each day and join forces in collective spiritual practices, prayers, meditations, and so on. Jalayars, or, as they were allegorically called, for example, in the Middle Ages, the true warriors of light of the Lord's army, have always tried to introduce the sign to the masses, thus providing help for centuries to the people of new generations who truly followed the spiritual path. In the ancient times, religion was the best way to promote this sign. Even though it was an institute of the priestly power invented by people, it was founded on the grains of true spiritual knowledge, which had once been given to all in its entirety, as well as on the people who truly walked the spiritual path. The latter were not that many, but it was they who introduced the spiritual symbols and active working signs into the images and attributes of different revered gods. However, those who served the animal mind inculcated negative signs, which activated the material, into the masses through religion just as diligently. I have already said that the circle is a symbol of the soul and also one of the symbols of manifestation of a spiritual being from the world of God. And the symbolic sign of the crescent with its horns pointing upwards is a symbol of the person who liberated himself spiritually already during his lifetime. The Alatare sign was also used to describe the one who has come from the spiritual world, the other, the Supreme One, into this material world, renewing the lost primordial knowledge. Symbol of the soul and of the world. The Alatare sign. Symbolic sign Alat. Figure 57. The Alatare sign and its components. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the Alatare sign is a working one, pure, exactly in this form, that is, an empty circle over an empty crescent with horns pointing upwards. If any images or conditional signs were placed inside the circle or the crescent, the sign ceased to be working, pure, and became only an informative symbol just like any book where you can read general information. Why did the sign cease to be working in this case? Here, it is pure physics. It is just that upon filling the emptiness with anything, any image, let us say, quantum interactions of the sign with the world get disrupted. More specifically, a sign with a filled-in circle or a crescent, interacting with other dimensions out of its second dimension, while transitioning through isoosmos, will already be perceived in other dimensions, including the third one, as nothing more than a picture, carrying information, a symbol. Anastasia, in other words, in this case, it will serve only as a symbol and not as a working sign. Rigdon, correct. Perhaps, I shall try to clarify for people the difference between a working sign and a simple symbol. A working sign, figuratively speaking, can be compared to an empty bucket which the observer lowers into the well, activates the sign, gets water, power, out of it with the bucket and then drinks it himself, fills himself, or gives it to others to drink, empowers, or waters his garden, activates a geographical location, which in the future will bring the corresponding fruit, spiritual activation of personalities who will stay in those places even in the distant future. But if the bucket, which he lowers into the well, is not empty but is filled, an informative symbol, not a working sign, then it becomes meaningless because you will not get water with it. I would even say that it is the same thing as if this bucket would have no bottom, in other words, what you lowered down is what you take out, without any result. Anastasia, Perhaps, it should also be noted that the working Alatare sign is one of the most powerful signs, and it has often been used by people who walk the spiritual path. Most interestingly, one cannot obtain power from it unless the personality is in the position of the observer from the spiritual nature, in contrast, for example, to the star sign. Rigdan, the Alatare sign works in dimensions above the sixth, and this puts it in line with those few unique working signs, accessible to a person in this world. So, the Alatare sign is a truly powerful sign which allows you to save and multiply the powers of Alat in yourself, the power that comes from God Himself and is directed at actual creation, that is, to the implementation of His plan. That is why, in the sacred sense, this sign is considered to be the embodiment of the power of God through Alat. Anastasia, Alatare, both as a working sign and as a symbol with a filled-in circle and additional notations indicating specific knowledge, has been used as cryptography about spiritual practices or teachings at different times by different peoples. Examples of this can be found if one familiarizes himself with the corresponding archaeological artifacts, monuments of art, writing systems of the already mentioned ancient cultures of India. The Harappan civilization, the Tripoli civilization, the Sumerian civilization, ancient Egyptian, original cultures of the ancient peoples of Siberia, and so on. Archaeologists find these symbols in rock inscriptions, on ancient prints, stelae, clay tablets, amulets, ritual utensils, clothing, and in the frescoes of ancient sanctuaries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5b5 c6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Figure 58. The Alatare sign and its symbols in the cultures of ancient Europe, Asia, and Africa. Archaeological findings with images of a sun boat with a circle. This is the Alatare symbol since the crescent is depicted with additional elements, on fragments of ritual dishes of the Tripoli civilization, Ukraine, Eastern Europe. A clay square plate with an image of a house crowned by the Alatare sign, the Neolithic cultures of the Balkan-Danube region, findings near town of Plovdiv, Bulgaria. A working Alatare sign in Minoan culture, 2nd millennium BC, Crete. An image of the Alatare sign in the sacred stories of ancient Egypt in the form of the sacred sun boat, Alat, and god Ra, in one case, with a falcon head crowned by an empty disc, in the other case, in the form of an empty disc itself appearing as one of the images of Ra. Alatare symbols on the artifacts of A, the Hossler culture, 5th millennium BC, B, the Apennine culture, 2nd millennium BC, C, cultures of the peoples of the Roman Empire, year 200 AD. The Alatare sign in the symbol of the Panto-Semitic deity Baal worshipped in Phoenicia, Palestine, and Syria. The Alatare sign on a fragment of a pectoral pendant found in the tomb, shrine, of King Tutankhamun. On the fragment, there is an image of Wajet, eye of Ra or eye of Horus, on the solar boat of Ra, and of the 2nd millennium BC, ancient Egypt. A fragment of the frieze from Merib, 5th to 4th centuries BC, southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, the Venus disk, Asta, over the sickle moon. The Alatare symbol in the impressions of the Akkadian and Assyrian seals. A central stele with the liberation, the Alatare sign on a steel circle late Bronze Age found among the ruins of the ancient Canaanite temple of the god of the moon during excavations in the city of Hazor, Upper Galilee, today the north of Israel. A traditional image of the ancient Egyptian goddess of the sky and love, Hathor, in the original legends, the daughter of Ra, on the stone reliefs of sacred temples of ancient Egypt with the Alatare symbol on her head. A story on a plate with an image of a royal hunt dating back to the Sassanid era, 7th century AD, Persia. An example of an image of Alatare as a symbol, with a filled-in circle, a symbolic graphic representation, yantra, of the Sahasrara crown chakra, the thousand-petal lotus, located on top of the head. It is used in meditative practices in Hinduism, Buddhism, and other schools of India. Rigdan, This simply points to the fact that at all times there have been people who possess sacred knowledge about the original working signs. Anastasia, moreover, you can clearly trace where an aleatory symbol was placed and where it was, namely the working sign. Rigdon, speaking of symbols. There were different symbols based on the interpretation of the aleatory sign. Some of them indicated additional explanations that were understood by people initiated into this knowledge, while other symbols are variations from the people who tried to strengthen that which was already strong or to additionally highlight certain significant points. Examples of such symbols based on the aleatory sign are crescent with horns pointing up over which stands either a circle with a cross inside it, or a star, or a symbolic representation of a face, and so on. 1, 2, 3. Figure 59. Examples of the aleatory symbols. Symbol of the Persian culture, 6th century BC. Symbol of the Sumerian culture, 3rd millennium BC. An Assyrian artifact of the sun god Ashur and the Sumerian moon deity Sin. The people who had no idea about the true meaning of these symbols would associate them with the sun or the moon and regard them simply as an attribute of this or that deity. But for people armed with knowledge, these symbols were like a hint, a clear message from the past from those who had applied these symbols. For example, let us take the symbol of the crescent with horns pointing upwards, above which a small circle is inscribed into a larger one, and the small circle has a cross with an empty circle in the center of it. This was a symbolic representation of spiritual teaching introduced into this world by a being from the spiritual world. The symbol of the latter is the aleatory sign. The small circle enclosed in the large one symbolizes people who are united by this teaching, a circle of followers. The equilateral cross is a symbol of the human being, and the empty circle in the center of the cross, in this case, coupled with the overall symbol, indicates not just the personality. This indicates a human being who has attained spiritual liberation, the fusion of his personality with the soul, through this teaching, yet one who had stayed to help other people who are walking the spiritual path. Anastasia, yes, this is a real spiritual feat, to achieve spiritual liberation, but have the courage to stay here in this harsh material world in order to serve as the conductor of the powers of Alat. There is another interesting point related to the mentioned symbols. The aleatory symbol, as a rule, was a characteristic of female goddesses. Among the most well-known ones is, for example, the sign of goddess Al-Lat, the mother of gods, who was revered by the ancient Arabs in the pre-Islamic times. Back in those days, a crescent with horns pointing upwards, indicating a connection with the spiritual world, as well as a circle, which people interpreted as a symbol of the moon, was placed above her symbolic image. Sometimes the crescent would be painted with sun rays as a symbol of movement in the spiritual direction. Rigdon, it is not surprising that the aleatory symbol was connected precisely with female goddesses. The fact is that throughout the history of mankind, so far, only women have become such spiritual guides, perhaps because they have a maternal instinct in the sense of spiritual care and love for people. Although, both women and men can be guides. It is just that men, once they attained spiritual liberation and as soon as the supreme realms were open to them, quickly left this material world, as they say, without delay and empathy for the fate of the people left here. Anastasia, it is funny how, even in such matters, women will be women and men will be men. I wanted to share some other findings related to Alat. In the knowledge which you told us about and which I recorded in the Sensei 4 book, you mentioned the fundamental importance of the Alat time, which lasts 12 minutes, or, to be more precise, 11 minutes 56.74 seconds. I stumbled upon information about a temple of the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II, which was carved out of a cliff in Egypt near the Nile River. In the 1960s, due to the construction of a dam, it was relocated 65 meters higher than the previous location on the same cliff. So then, twice a year, the following optical phenomenon can be observed there, on February 22 and October 22 at exactly 6 a.m., the first ray of the sun enters the temple through the common entrance and reaches the cult niche of the sanctuary. Then the beam lingers on the statue of god Amunare for 6 minutes and illuminates the statue of Ramses II all of 12 minutes. Notably, on February 22 a light falls on his chest, and on October 22 on his crown. Rigdan, people love to record their significance even in a piece of stone and to use spiritual knowledge to satisfy their pride. Anastasia, unfortunately. So then, regarding the symbols. A crescent, as you have mentioned, was often painted with a star instead of a circle. But the star could be 5-pointed, and 7-pointed, and 8-pointed, which was drawn as either a geometric figure with pointed projections or simply as rays radiating from the center. Rigdan, in essence, a star over a crescent is strengthening of what is already strong. This is Alad in Alad. However, such designation is also used as an additional indication of one of the powers of Alad. From ancient times, many pointed stars have also had their own peculiarities in the interpretation of their symbolism. The 7-pointed star is a symbol of the 7th dimension. The 8-pointed star is a symbol of the rhombus, a cube set on one of the corners as a symbol of human's transformation into a spiritual being, escape into the spiritual world. And the 5-pointed star is a working sign associated with the powers of Alad, manifested at the level of the 5th dimension. It belongs to the group of positively working signs. But such subtleties are only understood by people who work with signs in the invisible world. The 5-pointed star sign activates a sense of justice and hope for the future in a person, at the subconscious level, and also encourages people to unite. But unfortunately, these unique qualities of the sign have often been used and continue to be exploited by people serving the animal mind. This is, of course, a weak force compared to the Alatare sign, but nevertheless, upon its massive use, it gives a certain result connected with a particular influence on people and a change of events in the three-dimensional world. In the case of a 5-pointed star, no matter if it is pointing up or down, it will still be a sign of one of the creating power of Alad. The only question is what this additional power is spent on, or rather, where it is redirected by people who get it. Anastasia, indeed, the 5-pointed star has been used since ancient times in different forms of rotation. Its oldest image, if we speak about the artifacts known to this date, is thousands of years old, and it was found in Asia Minor in the culture of which we have already spoken. In the Neolithic era, the sign of the 5-pointed star was placed above the head of the great goddess as her symbol. And among the ancient Egyptians, the 5-ray star stood for a deity. Images of the 5-pointed star above the head of a bull as a sacred animal are known in some ancient beliefs. At that, the sign of this star was used both with the top pointing down as a positive spiritual symbol, containing elements of the sign of Alad, the central triangle pointing down as a symbol of the divine creating feminine principle, and with the top pointing up, in the same semantic interpretation. Since ancient times, the star has served as the symbol of victory of the spiritual nature over the material one. In mythology, it was used to designate the union of heaven and earth. This sign was popular among the peoples of ancient Europe, Asia, especially the Sumerians and the Persians, Americas, the Aboriginals, the American Indians, and others. And judging by the magic rituals of this or that peoples, it was one of the most commonly used symbols. The sign of the 5-pointed star was painted on amulets to protect against the forces of evil. Thanks to the Greek language, this star is known today as the pentagram. In the modern world, the 5-pointed star appears as a symbol of many states. Obviously, because the knowledge was lost, its image began to be interpreted from the human mind in esoterics, and this star with the top pointing up is considered as a sign of the white magician while a star pointing down, as a sign of the black magician. Rigdan, such a differentiation is truly an interpretation from the human mind. But it appeared because the creating power of Alad, which is accessible through this sign, was used for negative purposes. The sign of the star only gives a positive impetus, a surge of energy to some change. and where it is later directed by people is a matter of human choice. Here is a simple example. Throughout history, the sign of the five-pointed star was often used to achieve revolutions and stage coups. The star encouraged a positive surge in the masses, it gave motivation and inspired to action while stimulating a yearning for the better in people in terms of their inner disposition. That is why people went for these transformations in society with faith, a positive attitude, a hope for a better life and future, with a desire to find the long-awaited freedom. This is exactly the manifested effect of this sign on the masses. But where to and with help of what directives was all this power redirected by the leaders of such coups? Naturally, towards the power of the animal mind, which substitutes the notions of people's spiritual aspirations with the implementation of its material programs. So it happens that in coups and revolutions, people try to overthrow one tyrant in the hopes of gaining their own freedom, but instead they elect another tyrant without realizing that nothing of what they expect will change in their lives and that there will be no freedom of which every soul dreams. Such substitutions from the animal mind are not understood even by those who stage these mass shows by making use of tremendous human resources, power. People waste their unique power of attention and time, ultimately to strengthen the power of the animal mind in the material world in which they are to live, even if for a short time. And the greater the power of the animal nature, the more they forget about their spiritual nature, losing the true understanding of real freedom and the meaning of their lives. Anastasia, yes, when the original spiritual knowledge is lost, there is no understanding of what we are doing and what we create for ourselves with our choices. Rigdon, people should take a closer look at history and the world around them. First and foremost, to understand the mistakes of the past and the present and, therefore, not to make them in the future, to determine the vector of their lives and approach this issue with an already in-depth understanding of themselves and society in which they live. Anastasia, it is for good reason that they say that knowledge is power. In this regard, I would like to come back to the conversation about the primordial spiritual practices. In particular, I would be very grateful to you if you told the readers about the pyramid meditation, which is classified among the fundamental spiritual practices. I hope this meditation will help people, just like it helped us in our time, to comprehend reality, get a personal spiritual experience in knowing your own soul and, thanks to the deepest feelings, reach an understanding of what true freedom really is. Rigdon, can do. Anastasia, but before you proceed with the technique of doing this unique meditation, I would like to clarify with you some significant moments for the readers. First of all, the ones related to understanding what an altered state of consciousness during meditation is. You know, I came across such instances when people, even after reading the books, did meditations, to put it mildly, simply with imagination. Upon a detailed discussion, it turned out that they just did not understand what a meditation really was, what an altered state of consciousness in practice was, although they had read about it a lot. In some cases, people, thinking that they were meditating, in fact, remained practically in the awake state, which is typical for them during the day, without bothering to switch to a different state of consciousness. That is why they often had thoughts about everyday matters, about their current work, everyday life, experiences during the day and so on. That is, they had various distracting thoughts during this simulated exercise. Naturally, such a meditation, as a theory, happened only in their imagination. In other cases, people simply fell asleep instead of meditating. Generally, it happened after they were exhausted during the workday and then sat down to meditate. Sleep, as it is known, is also one of the altered states of consciousness. So they mistook it for meditation, and that is why while making such an effort of will, in the sense of forcing themselves to meditate despite being tired after a work day, they, in fact, did not see any results. Rigdon, these people need to understand what altered states of consciousness are, what kind they can be and what the difference between them is. These altered states of consciousness, such as a dream or a meditation, are characterized by complete relaxation of the body, mental calmness, and drowsiness. But this is only an indicator of the beginning of an altered state of consciousness. The division comes later. Some people get immersed in meditation, a conscious control of the subtle processes of the invisible world, while others fall asleep, the unconscious state. Anastasia, I've been saying just that. In other words, people lack real practical understanding of what a true meditation is and how it really takes place. Rigdon, I would advise these people, first of all, to understand what an elementary autogenic training is, learn to relax the body, control their thoughts, practice keeping their attention focused on one thing for long periods of time, and then to proceed to practicing meditation, that is, to a deeper immersion into an altered state of consciousness, to learn the basic meditation techniques that you described in the first book Sensei and in the other books in the series, and only then to begin to master the fundamental spiritual practices. Anastasia, I agree with you, people are different, and while some quickly grasp the essence, others need time to figure everything out in more detail. But more often, people simply lack the basic knowledge about themselves and the general mechanisms of the brain's function in different states of consciousness. I know that you possess unique knowledge in the field of neurophysiology and functioning of the human brain. Could you elaborate on the topic of altered states of consciousness, or at least orient the readers in publicly accessible information, or share knowledge that can be made public? Rigdon, well, perhaps, solely within the limits of the modern scientific understanding of the functioning of the brain, so that it might be clearer to people what is meant and in which direction one should conduct one's research. As is it known, the functioning of the brain is associated with electromagnetic waves. The brain can operate in different modes, each of which is characterized by a certain psychic and physiological state of consciousness. The human being as a personality, thanks to concentrating his attention, can control several such states of consciousness. In everyday life, he is most often in one of the states which in the scientific circles is called the awake state. Scientists, while measuring the brain's electrical activity over time, conditionally indicate the state of active wakefulness as beta rhythm. Its frequency range is from 14 to 35 Hz, and the voltage is 10 to 30 MkV. Beta waves are regarded as fast waves, and they are low-amplitude vibrations of the overall, total, potential of the brain. On the EEG, the waveform resembles, relatively speaking, triangles with pointed tops. Beta rhythm is generally recorded during the functioning of the brain's frontal central regions. However, when a person pays attention to something new, unexpected, to any information that he hears, intensive mental activity, or a powerful emotional excitation, this rhythm grows and can spread to other parts of the brain. Beta rhythm is typical of the brain's functioning when a person works mentally, is emotionally stressed, and under the influence of various irritants. All in all, it should be noted that such a notion as fatigue is not typical for the brain. You must simply understand how it works, switch from one activity to another in time, and be able to change the quality of the states of consciousness at the right time. Everyday life constantly involves a person's psychological self-tuning, upon which, incidentally, also depends the overall condition of the body. Throughout the day, a person is influenced by different external factors, such as, for example, sound and light, not to mention the effects of the invisible world. All of them are everyday irritants which, one way or another, affect physiological and other biological processes of human life. Excessive anxiety, anger, irritability, and psychological fatigue are accompanied by tension of the muscles of the face, neck, arms, and so on. In its turn, a tense muscle also becomes a generator of excitation impulses. The task of the person performing an autogenic training or tuning up for a meditation is to limit the flow of excitatory signals. That is why he sits down in a comfortable position, in silence, eliminates any sound stimuli, closes his eyes, eliminates the impact of the sources of visual stimuli, switches his attention from various everyday thoughts, experiences, and worries, to inner peace and silence, that is, when possible, he eliminates the direct influence of the invisible world. Next, he focuses on relaxing his muscles, eliminates another channel of excitation, and then reaches the state of complete relaxation altogether. Thus, a person readjusts the working mode of his psyche and, consequently, of the nervous system. Thanks to such self-tuning, he can control himself through clear mental self-orders, auto-reports.